Welcome to another episode of Dark Dialogue Chat Sessions. How's it going tonight, Angela?
It's good. How are you?
It's good. Yeah, it's a good night.
I didn't even know why I asked that.
Yeah, why didn't you have to ask that? You shouldn't have had to ask that.
Politeness. I blame my mom.
So, made it to another week. It is Friday.
It is Friday. And Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Yeah, you did like a special episode for us tonight, which is really freaking fun and exciting and all the things.
Thank you.
And we have a whole new Shadow Chat sessions
that John's very excited about.
It is called Chimney Pooper.
Oh, no.
Psychic Horse, Everest Resurrection, Florida Man, Facebook Felonies, and Bayou Beasts. If that kind of gives you an idea of where we're headed.
Strap in, folks.
This whole episode, yeah. It could prove to be interesting.
They usually do.
So, yeah, with that, welcome back, listeners, to another crazy freaking episode of Shadow Chat Sessions. This is the show where we talk about dumb shit, weird shit, strange shit, all the different shits, and I don't know, something about rules be made up and they don't matter, and I can't keep it all straight, but I don't have to for this show, so that's really freaking cool. One of my favorite things. So, with all that said, do you have anything to add?
I do not yet.
So we do ask you listeners to do us one favor, and that's if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music or Amazon whatever and iHeart and all the different things, if you can give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a review, it helps so much. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could hit that follow button, hit that thumbs up, ring the bell, do all the things, it just really helps us.
It does.
And with that, are you ready to get into the strange headline segment?
I'm terrified.
It's the one I'm excited for this.
I'm slightly terrified.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Find the bastard who shat down my chimney. In 2013, the British tabloid Sunday Sport ran a now infamous front page screaming, "Find the bastard who shat down my chimney. Homeowners flu poo horror." The story allegedly centered on a furious homeowner named Mike Williams, whose chimney had been defiled by an unknown phantom pooper. The headline went viral, became a meme, and, like many Sunday Sport stories, was later widely believed to be fabricated or even embellished. The headline itself reads like something written during a pub dare. Find the bastard who shat down my chimney. Homeowners flu poo horror. It appeared on the front page of the Sunday Sport, a UK tabloid known for stories that live somewhere between parody, satire, and we technically printed it, so now it's news. This is the same publication ecosystem that once ran the absurdist headlines like "Aliens turned our sun into a fish finger." So we are not dealing with the Times of London here. The chimney story allegedly featured a man identified as Mike Williams, described as a homeowner whose chimney or flue had been blocked because someone, apparently an Olympic-level commitment, had climbed onto his roof and defecated down it. The article framed the incident as a public appeal. Mike was said to be furious. The tone suggested outrage, victimhood, and a call for justice. The headline reads like a wanted poster written by someone who skipped every journalism class but absolutely nailed the rage. However, when internet sleuths began digging into the story years later, cracks appeared immediately. Reddit users traced the building pictured in the article to a real property in northern Scotland, Gulspie specifically, but found no corroborating reports, no police statements, no local news follow-ups, and no evidence that alleged chimney saboteur ever existed beyond the pages of the Sunday Sport. Several breakdowns concluded the paper likely fabricated or wildly exaggerated the incident, standard operating procedures for that particular publication. The important thing here isn't whether someone technically defiled a flue somewhere in Scotland. It's that the story was packaged like a crime appeal. Find the bastard implies vigilante energy. It invites readers to treat a possibly imaginary rooftop bowel movement as a matter of public justice. The image of the front page began circulating wildly online in 2013, particularly on Reddit and image boards. Detached from its original context, it became a meme representing peak tabloid absurdity. People shared it as shorthand for, "This is why British newspapers are unhinged." The phrase itself took on a life of its own. It appears in joke compilations, meme threads, and greatest newspaper headlines ever list. And that's where this story gets interesting for shadow chat sessions. The original paper likely intended it as sensationalist entertainment, but once it entered the meme culture, it stopped being about one absurd tabloid issue, and it became a cultural artifact, a reminder that tabloids blur the line between reality and performance. There's also something telling about how the story mimics legitimate crime reporting structure. A named victim, public outrage, appeal to the community, perpetrator unidentified, the tone of moral violation. It has all the scaffolding of a crime narrative minus the crime, which raises the broader question. When media presents outrage theatrically, how many readers internalize that as reality, and how often do ridiculous crime frames distort expectations of what real crime looks like? In this case, it's funny, it's absurd, it's meme-worthy, but structurally, it's still teaching readers how to consume crime through outrage. And that's worth noting, even when the alleged weapon is gravity. My take? I love that this was framed like Scotland's Most Wanted, Chimney edition. Somewhere in a newsroom, a grown adult looked at a draft and said, no, bigger font. We need more fury. This is a public menace.
Yes, all caps.
Also, let's just think through the logistics. This isn't casual misconduct. This requires rooftop access, balance, planning, commitment. This is premeditated chimney warfare. If real, this individual didn't just wake up and make a mistake. This was a strategic vertical deployment. But my favorite part is the moral panic tone. Find the bastard. Who exactly is running the investigation?
Out there.
Is there a chimney forensics unit? Are we swabbing bricks? Is CSI Flu Division on the case? And the tabloid ecosystem thrives on this exact formula. Outrage, body fluids, maximum font size, zero follow-up. The real crime here might not be what went down the chimney. It might be what went down in the editorial meeting. Still, credit where it's due. That headline achieved immortality. It is Shakespearean in its rage. It's concise. It's primal. It's unforgettable. If journalism had a Hall of Fame or sentences you cannot unsee, this would be the first one on the ballot.
We gotta save Gotham, Batman.
So if someone actually did this, what would their criminal profile look like?
Oh,
A petty vandal, a rooftop ninja, competitive parkour enthusiast with a grudge?
yes.
I think so too.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think so too. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
He just must have been really bad this year, and that is how Santa was telling him.
Maybe so.
Yes.
Perhaps. So what other household inconveniences deserve this level of headline fury? Find the monster who put my empty milk back in the fridge?
All the moms will agree. Who stole the damn scissors?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Mhm.
And who put the toilet paper on backwards?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. If Sunday sport is knowingly absurd, does that make it harmless satire, or does it quietly train readers to accept theatrical outrage as news?
B.
I mean, it looks like the National Enquirer.
It does, yeah.
It looks like it's the same
Yeah.
freaking bunch of people running both of them. And that, I mean, I haven't believed anything I've read on that page or on that thing ever in my life.
Ever.
So.
No.
All right. Well, you ready for our conspiracy corner?
I am.
Katy Perry is JonBenét Ramsey. One of the internet's most bizarre celebrity conspiracies claims that JonBenét Ramsey's 1996 murder was staged so that she could grow up and become pop star Katy Perry. The theory gained traction around 2014 through a viral YouTube video and continues to resurface, most recently through AI morph clips, despite being instantly debunked by basic facts, including the fact that Katy Perry is nearly 6 years older than JonBenét Ramsey. This theory did not emerge from investigative journalism. It emerged from the internet's fever swamp. The modern version traces back to a 2014 YouTube video by conspiracy personality Dave Johnson, who confidently declared, JonBenét Ramsey became Katy Perry. That's a fact. The claim was delivered with absolute conviction and zero evidence, two pillars of modern conspiracy culture. The argument goes like this. JonBenét's death in 1996 was staged by her parents. Instead of being murdered, she was secretly relocated, given a new identity, and then later emerged as Katy Perry. Why? Fame, power, Illuminati, take your pick. The evidence offered is exactly what you would expect. Side-by-side childhood photos suggesting a resemblance. Claims that Katy's parents look like John and Patsy Ramsey. Symbol hunting in Katy's lyrics and music videos. Numerology and vague Illuminati references. And more recently, AI morph videos showing JonBenét's face transforming magically into Katy's. The morph clips are particularly illustrative of how digital tools can supercharge absolute nonsense. A computer blending two blonde faces together becomes proof to people already committed to the conclusion. But here's the problem. The very first problem. The timeline. JonBenét Ramsey was born August 6, 1990. Katy Perry was born October 25, 1984. That's nearly a 6-year age gap. Katy was already in elementary school when JonBenét was born. You don't need forensic linguistics. You don't need DNA testing. You just need a calendar. Beyond that, JonBenét's body was found in the Ramsey home in December of 1996. An autopsy documented head trauma and strangulation. There is no credible evidence, none, that her death was staged or that she survived. JonBenét's father, John Ramsey, has publicly called these types of claims nonsense, and understandably so. For a family that has lived under decades of scrutiny, having your murdered child turned into a celebrity swap theory isn't quirky, it's cruel. Katy Perry largely ignored the theory for years. When an AI morph resurfaced in 2025, she jokingly commented, "Wait, am I?" Clearly treating it as absurd internet folklore, but that moment also shows something important. The theory persists because the internet rewards spectacle. And here's where it becomes relevant to Conspiracy Corner. This isn't just a silly celebrity rumor. It's an unsolved child homicide being repurposed as digital entertainment. It sits at the intersection of true crime, celebrity gossip, and conspiracy culture, and it demonstrates how unresolved grief can be turned into myth. Conspiracy spaces thrive on pattern recognition gone feral. Humans are wired to see connections. Add two blonde girls, similar facial structure and select angles, a high-profile unsolved murder, a global pop star, and suddenly the brain says, what if? That what if is a gateway drug. From there, it's cherry picking, confirmation bias, and a refusal to check the birth dates. The most telling aspect isn't the claim itself, it's how quickly it spreads. Once a theory detaches itself from facts, it becomes self-sustaining. People share it ironically, and then someone shares it seriously, and then someone builds a longer video. Then AI tools make it look more convincing, and suddenly you have a conspiracy that refuses to die even though its central premise collapses under second-grade arithmetic. My take? This is what happens when the internet gets bored. You take a real murdered child, you take a pop star, you squint at two blonde faces, and you ignore math. 6 years older. That's it. That's the end of the investigation. I don't need to bring in forensic analysis. I don't need to consult the CIA. I need a wall calendar from Walmart. But here's the part that stops being funny. JonBenét Ramsey was a real child who was murdered. Her case remains unsolved. Turning her into a celebrity reincarnation theory is not edgy. It's not clever. It's not even creative. It's spectacle layered on top of tragedy, and it perfectly illustrates how conspiracy culture works. Step 1, start with a real unresolved event. Step 2, add a famous face. Step 3, ignore timelines. Step 4, accuse anyone who disagrees of being in on it. The fact that AI morph videos are now being used as evidence tells you where we're actually at culturally. We're in an area where software-generated face blending can replace critical thinking. This one is ridiculous, but it's also a case study in how digital folklore forms. It's not about proving something true. It's about building an alternate reality that feels entertaining. And when the subject is a murdered child, that entertainment has a cost. So, at what point does a fun conspiracy cross the line into exploitation, especially when it involves a real homicide victim?
That's a good enough point for me.
I mean, I think a lot of these, honestly, though, are exploitative. I really do.
I'm so sick of them.
Like, this one is particularly bad, and I wouldn't have even included it except for the fact that we have the conspiracy corner and all things are game here.
Yeah.
And because I have a particular interest in the JonBenét case and a particular feeling about that case, and I just get pissed off at all of this kind of shit. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about it. And I was flabbergasted. Of course, you know me, I don't follow any of this pulp culture nonsense, but man, this one really got to me. I mean, I was pissed off when I saw this.
Yeah.
I still am.
Yeah, this one, I'm so sick of all of these. And the daily, guess who died today?
Oh, that shit drives me nuts.
Like,
yeah. So, I did see one the other day, though, that really freaking hit me. They brought in a bunch of forensic experts and reevaluated Kurt Cobain's autopsy.
That he was murdered.
And they determined it was a homicide. And I fully believe that was a homicide. I have ever since it freaking happened.
I saw that too. We might have to dive into that.
Yeah. So why do unsolved cases generate more celebrity crossover conspiracies than solved ones? Is ambiguity the oxygen?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's absurd.
Yes.
With AI morphing and deepfake tools becoming mainstream, how much harder will it be to debunk visual evidence in the future?
I think AI has to get a lot better because right now AI is, you can tell, and it's just, I don't know. I'm so mad at it.
I do. I hate it. It just drives me crazy. I mean, some of them are cool, I was watching a James Hetfield one the other day, and it takes him from when he was a little kid and
I
through
like
the
those.
years, and those are really cool,
Yeah.
And then I saw one with, I think I saw a Johnny Cash one, did kind of the same thing. Those are cool, and I mean they're obviously AI generated. Nobody's claiming they're not.
Yeah.
They're just kind of a cool thing that AI can do, but. Yeah, I mean, when it's bullshit like this, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I think that to answer the question, it's going to be easy to debunk them when you can't add. That's kind of a prerequisite, If you can prove somebody was alive 6 years before the person that you claim they are, there's a big problem there. All right, you ready for the Reddit rabbit hole?
Yes.
All right, well, here we go. Babysitter who called the cops when the mom was late.
How dare.
A viral Reddit, AITA post, and I don't know what that is, so sorry, but post exploded after a babysitter called police when a mother blew past the agreed return time by hours and stopped responding to calls and texts. The mom came back furious. Reddit overwhelmingly sided with the babysitter. The story jumped from Reddit to BuzzFeed, Newsweek, parenting forums, and beyond, turning a late pickup into an internet ethics trial about abandonment, responsibility, and when calling the cops becomes the only option. This one reads like a slow burn thriller, except the only ticking clock is on the microwave. The typical version of the story goes like this. A teenage babysitter agrees to watch a couple's kids for the evening. Clear return time around 9 or 10. Sometimes the sitter explicitly says that they need to leave by a certain hour. School in the morning, a ride home scheduled, their own parent expecting them home. 9 p.m. comes and goes, no text. 10 p.m. still nothing. The sitter sends a message. Hey, just checking in. What time are you heading back? Read receipt, no reply. 11 p.m., multiple calls, straight to voicemail. Midnight, the sitter is now hours past the agreed time. The kids are asleep, the house is quiet, the parent is completely unreachable. And at this point, the sitter often calls their own parent for advice because, remember, this is frequently a minor making this decision. And here's the turning point. The sitter calls the police non-emergency line, not 911 in panic, no sirens blaring, a calm explanation. I'm babysitting. The parents were supposed to be home hours ago. I can't reach them. I don't know if something has happened. From a legal standpoint, that's not dramatic. That's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Police treat it as a welfare concern because here's the thing. When a parent disappears for hours without contact, it could be negligence or it could be a car accident. Officers may come to the home. They may wait. In some cases, reported in threads, Child Protective Services gets looped in. Eventually, the parents are located, sometimes at a party, sometimes at a bar, sometimes simply ignoring their phone. And then comes the rage. The parents return furious, not at themselves, but at the babysitter. How dare you call the cops? You overreacted. You ruined everything. You're immature. They often refuse to hire the sitter again. In some cases, they accuse the sitter of causing unnecessary drama. The babysitter, now doubting themselves, turns to Reddit. I don't know.
Okay. I thought I knew what it was, and I just confirmed. It's an acronym for Am I the Asshole? Which is a lot of stories that they tell.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's probably something I should have researched. Okay.
That's what I'm here for.
Am I the asshole for calling the police when the mom didn't come home? Reddit's verdict, overwhelmingly, not the asshole. The reasoning is blunt. You cannot abandon children with a minor indefinitely. A babysitter cannot just leave. If a parent is hours late and unreachable, you assume emergency first, flakiness second. Liability matters. Safety matters. The threat becomes an internet courtroom. Thousands of strangers win online between running late and child abandonment. Mainstream outlets pick it up because it hits a nerve. Parenting responsibility in the age of constant connectivity. In 1995, maybe your phone battery died. In 2025, if you're reading text and not responding for hours, that's a choice. And the escalation is what makes it viral. A routine childcare job becomes a police-involved welfare check. The moral tension is sharp. Do you avoid involving authorities to keep things calm? Or do you escalate because something could genuinely be wrong? That's the ethical pressure cooker that Reddit loves. My take? Let's remove the internet drama and look at this clinically. If you are the legal guardian of a child and you are hours past your agreed return time and you are unreachable, the situation has shifted. It is no longer, I'm late. It is now either you were in danger or you were negligent. The babysitter doesn't get to gamble on which one. And here's what drives me nuts. The parent comes back mad.
Yeah.
Mad at the person who stayed with their kids. Mad at the person who didn't leave their kids alone. Mad at the person who assumed maybe you were in a ditch somewhere. You don't get to vanish into the night and then scold someone for treating it like a problem. Also, this is usually a teenager making that call. A kid making an adult-level judgment because the actual adult abdicated that responsibility. And if police show up and suddenly CPS is asking questions, that's not because of the babysitter. That's because the timeline crossed into potential abandonment territory. Reddit gets accused of being chaotic, but in this case, the consensus makes sense. If you are an hour late in text, fine. If you're 3 hours late, phone off, no contact, that's not oops. That's a situation. And the uncomfortable truth is this. If something had happened to the parent, if they'd been in an accident, everyone would be praising the babysitter for calling quickly. The only reason that it's controversial is because the parent turned out to be fine. Responsibility does not depend on outcome. It depends on risk. So at what exact point does running late legally or ethically become abandonment? 1 hour, no response at all?
I'm going to go with 1 hour, no response.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I hate cell phones generally. I don't think they've done a great thing for society. I think they've done a lot of bad, but one good thing that comes from cell phones is in a situation like this, when you leave your kid with a babysitter, you are always available. Like you can get a call. You can know when there's an emergency at home and your kids need you now.
Yeah.
Like, if you make a decision to ignore your babysitter, at that point, all bets are off. Like, I'm sorry. While I would not agree with this move, and no, I don't think it's the right move, but if the babysitter decided to go home and leave the kids there by themselves, that's the risk you take because they're a child themselves.
Yeah. But would the babysitter be charged for negligence?
Probably
Possibly.
not.
It's possible, though.
Maybe, but I doubt it because they're a minor child.
Well, yeah.
Like, they cannot be held to the same accountability as adults. Yes, we might trust a 13-year-old to watch our 2-year-old, but that does not mean that we expect them to act like a freaking grown adult.
Yeah.
In this story, I think she did act like a grown adult.
She did. Yeah.
So should babysitters have written contracts that specify if you are X hours late and unreachable, police will be contacted?
100%.
I mean, it's sad that we even have to have this conversation, but at the end of the day, if you bring children into this world, you are the primary one that's responsible for it.
Yeah.
So is Reddit acting as a healthy moral sounding board here, or does it oversimplify complex family situations into villain versus hero narratives?
I'm going to say that is not black and white. That is gray.
I think in this particular instance, it is a bunch of people reassuring a young, I assume it's a young lady, that she did the right thing. I mean, I think sometimes it's definitely oversimplifying things and getting a little dramatic. But in this particular case, I really think that this girl, if all of this is true and she really said, am I the asshole for doing this? And was told, no, hon, you're not the asshole.
Yeah.
Then I think it did exactly what it should have done.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we ready for the Dipshit Diaries?
Oh, joy.
Dipshit Diaries.
The lowest high there is.
What?
Florida men snort stolen cremains. In December of 2010, burglars broke into Silver Spring Shores home near Ocala, Florida, stealing electronics, jewelry, and several urns containing the ashes of the homeowner's father and 2 Great Danes. Believing the powder inside was cocaine or crushed pills, the suspects snorted and tasted the cremated remains. When they later realized what they'd ingested, they dumped the remaining ashes in a nearby lake. Several were convicted and sentenced to prison. The homeowner permanently lost part of her father's and one dog's ashes. So on December 15th, 2010, Holly Tencza returned home.
Tenza? Yeah.
Something like that. Returned home to find her house in Silver Spring Shores burglarized. Missing were common burglary targets, laptop, flat screen TV, DVD player, jewelry. But among the stolen items were also urns. These urns contained the cremated remains of her father and her two Great Danes, Samson and Epic. The burglars weren't after sentiment. They weren't after anything that looked They were after anything that looked valuable or resembled drugs. When authorities later questioned the suspects, Jose David Diaz Marrero, Waldo Sorora, Matrix Andaluz, yes, that's his real name, along with two juveniles, they admitted they believed the powder in the urns was cocaine, heroin, or crushed pills. So they did what absolute geniuses do when confronted with an unknown white powder. They sampled it. They reportedly snorted and tasted the contents to, quote, see what it was. At some point, either through news reports or the dawning horror of context, they realized they had not discovered the world's most depressing cocaine stash. They had snorted cremated human and dog remains. Panic followed. To destroy evidence, they dumped the remaining ashes into a nearby lake. The Marion County Sheriff's Office dive team later recovered some of the remains, specifically the father's ashes and one dog's ashes, but part of the remains were permanently lost. And one especially bleak twist, a bag containing some ashes were reportedly discarded by someone who thought it was a concrete mix. This wasn't a simple, impulsive act. The group was tied to a string of burglaries in the area between December 2010 and January 2011. Diaz Marrero later pled guilty and received 8 years in prison plus probation and restitution. Andaluz reportedly received 9 years plus extended probation. Other cases proceeded separately. The crime became internet shorthand for Florida man stupidity, eventually getting cleaned up into Reader's Digest, the lowest high there is blurb, flattened into a punchline about drug thieves making a catastrophic miscalculation. But beneath the absurdity is something darker, a family permanently losing irreplaceable remains because someone thought an urn looked like a stash jar. It's ridiculous. It's grotesque. And it's very real. My take? Okay, first of all, if you break into a house and your drug radar is so advanced that you think decorative urns are cocaine storage devices, maybe crime is not your field. Secondly, who sees a memorial urn and thinks, jackpot? This isn't Scarface, it's grandma's mantle. Also, let's talk about due diligence. If you're going to ingest mystery powder from a burglary scene, maybe ask at least one follow-up question. Is it labeled? Is it in a baggie? Is it next to a framed photo of a deceased relative? But here's where it stops being funny. This woman lost part of her father's remains permanently. You cannot replace that. There's no Amazon Prime option for dad refill. And dumping the ashes in a lake to destroy evidence, that's not just stupidity, that's compounding harm. Florida man energy is a meme, but this is real damage wrapped in absurdity. Still, if there is such a thing as karmic irony, this is it. Imagine explaining that in court. Yes, Your Honor, I ingested a golden retriever. You aimed for cocaine, you landed on cremains, 8 years. That is, in fact, the lowest high there is. So, what is the absolute worst possible item to mistake for drugs during a burglary? We may have a winner here.
I think so.
I mean,
I think so. And this is something I do not want part of the Dipshit Diaries museum. We don't want any of their ashes.
No.
Nothing.
But I've seen cremains and I've seen cocaine. They don't even look similar to the same. Like, it makes me wonder if these idiots had ever even seen cocaine.
Yeah.
Because that's not an easy mistake to make.
I'm appalled. I have no words.
So at what point during sampling do you realize that something is off?
You just don't sample. My inner germaphobe is so pissed off right now.
It's not even germaphobe.
I know, but
I mean,
still.
who knows? It could have been rat poison. I mean, it could have been all kinds of shit. Like, who does that?
You just don't. Just don't.
And who assumes that? I mean, I did not get to, I don't dig very deep into this, but I did not get the impression that this was like a multi-million-dollar mansion. Who has that much cocaine sitting anywhere in their house?
Out in the open, on the mantle.
Right.
Because that's how the other half lives.
Yeah, that's how the other half
lives.
Why do some real crimes get reduced to a punchline in dumbest criminals ever lists while the victims really, their losses get minimized?
Yeah, that's absurd too. Absurd is our word of the day, I think.
It's pretty absurd.
Have one. We have one every time.
Yeah, we do. All right, you ready for number 2?
Yeah.
The Facebook Felony album McStack Edition. In 2015, recently paroled bank robber John E. Mogan II walked into a savings bank in Asheville, Ohio, handed over a demand note, and fled with cash. His girlfriend, Ashley Dubois, allegedly helped disguise his distinctive facial tattoos with makeup. Days later, instead of laying low, the couple posted celebrity Facebook photos of Mogan grinning with stacks of cash, holding money to his ear like a phone and stuffing a brick of bills into his mouth, captioned McStack. Authorities connected the dots, and both were arrested and charged. On August 24, 2015, John E. Mogan II, 28 years old and recently released from prison for prior bank robbery, walked into the savings bank in Asheville, Ohio, a small town roughly 20 miles south of Columbus. He didn't stage a Hollywood spectacle, no dramatic shouting, no Ocean's 11 theatrics. He reportedly handed the teller a note demanding money and left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Low-tech, efficient, simple. But here's the wrinkle. Mogan is heavily tattooed, face, neck, prominent ink that makes anonymity challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators believe his girlfriend, 24-year-old Ashley K. Dubois, applied makeup to cover his tattoos before the robbery, a crude attempt at disguise, so there was, at least superficially, some thought put into concealment. And remember, this wasn't his first rodeo. Mogan had just finished serving nearly 5 years for a previous bank robbery in Lancaster, Ohio. So let's recap the strategic lineup. Repeat offender, recently paroled, uses makeup to obscure facial tattoos, execute note-based robbery. You could almost argue, purely mechanically, that he learned something, and then Facebook happened. Within days of the robbery, the couple's shared Facebook account began posting photos, not subtle photos, not new car in the driveway photos. We're talking Mogan fanning out thick stacks of cash, holding a wad of bills to his ear like a phone, shoving a brick of money into his mouth, captioning one image, McStack. One image reportedly showed Dubois embracing him while he grinned and displayed cash in both hands. Several photos prominently displayed his heavily tattooed face and neck, the very identifiers that he had attempted to conceal during the robbery. Local law enforcement had already released surveillance images from the bank. Tips began coming in identifying Mogan. When investigators examined his online presence, the Facebook posts were sitting there like a neatly organized evidence folder.
Yeah.
Surveillance stills, distinctive tattoos, sudden cash flexing online. All of that equals probable cause with a bow on it. Authorities arrested both Mogan and Dubois. They were charged with third-degree robbery and fifth-degree theft under Ohio law and held on $250,000 bond each in Pickaway County. National outlets quickly picked up the story. CBS News included it in a Dumb Criminals anthology. CNN, USA Today, and others framed it as a cautionary tale. If you commit a felony, do not turn your social media page into a highlight reel. But what makes this story especially absurd is the sequence of decision-making. He disguised himself for the robbery. He executed the robbery successfully. He avoided capture initially. And then he voluntarily created a digital trophy case. My take? This is what I call self-snitching at championship level. You cover your tattoos with makeup to avoid identification. Then you post high-resolution photos of your tattooed face holding stacks of suspicious cash. That's not a mistake. That's performance art. And I need to talk about the caption. McStack? You just robbed a bank. You're on parole. And your creative contribution to the criminal arts is a McDonald's pun? Okay, let's discuss the psychological piece here. The crime itself is about money. The posting is about validation. The robbery was for profit. The selfies were for applause. That's the part that fascinates me. He didn't get caught because of cutting-edge forensic analysis. He got caught because he needed the world to see him winning.
Yeah.
And the makeup attempt? Well, that's the cherry on top. He understood that tattoos make you identifiable. He understood that cameras exist. He understood that concealment matters, but he didn't understand that Facebook is a camera that never turns off. This isn't dumb. It's ego-driven dumb. And in 2015, we were already deep enough into the social media era to know better. If you commit a crime and then you document your lifestyle glow up online, you're not masterminding. You are curating evidence. So, which was the worst decision? Robbing a bank while on parole or captioning your stolen cash McStack?
I'm going to say documenting by just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I mean, don't go rob banks.
Don't rob banks.
But documenting it and McStack just barely is worse.
I mean, it really not that I had a whole bunch anyway, but I really have absolutely no faith in our criminal justice system. I mean, we can't reform a dipshit like this to not rob banks.
Yeah.
Come on. So what point in human history did criminals decide, you know what this felony needs? A photo shoot.
Yes.
I can't believe the number of stories that are out like this.
I know.
Of these idiots that post their shit on. It blows my mind. So is social media the modern day equivalent of criminals carving their names into trees at the crime scene?
Yes.
But I don't think people were this stupid back then.
No. You might as well just go live.
Exactly.
Just go live while you're doing it.
Blows my mind. All right, ready for number 3?
Mm-hmm.
Gravity 1, burglar 0. In July of 2015, a would-be burglar in Abilene, Texas, climbed onto the roof of Texas Metals and Recycling, apparently attempting to break in from above. Instead, he fell straight through the roof. By the time the police arrived, the suspect had fled, but he hadn't managed to steal anything. Public reporting on the incident is sparse, and it survives mostly as a short, dumb criminal blurb, but the core fact remains. He broke in by breaking through. This one is simple, beautifully simple. In July 2015, Abilene, Texas, a burglar decides the optimal entry point for a metals recycling business is the roof. Now, on paper, roof entry sounds tactical. Less visible than a front door, no smashed storefront windows. Maybe you think you've outsmarted the alarm system. But here's the mechanical issue. Industrial roofing materials are not built to support random criminal optimism. According to the CBS News Dumb Criminals feature summarizing this event, the suspect climbed onto the roof of Texas Metals and Recycling and promptly fell right through it. No dramatic standoff, no vault cracking, no clever getaway car, just physics. When Abilene police responded to the scene, the suspect was already gone. He'd fled before officers arrived and apparently failed to steal anything, which means he risked a felony. He executed a vertical entry strategy. He achieved zero loot. He may or may not have achieved a full body bruise. There's very little additional public detail, no widely cited name, no confirmed injury report, no dramatic follow-up articles. It exists in the media ecosystem as a short, punchy anecdote. A police blotter moment elevated into national, look how dumb this is status. And that's part of what makes it funny. It's a crime with no payoff. The building absorbed the hit. The burglar absorbed the fall. Law enforcement got a report. And the only lasting legacy is a paragraph in a dumb criminal slideshow. Sometimes the universe enforces consequences faster than the justice system. So my take? Let's break this down. If you are committing burglary and your first adversary is gravity and gravity wins, you might need a new career. This wasn't thwarted by advanced security measures. This was thwarted by basic structural integrity. Also, can we talk about planning? You're going to break into a metal recycling facility, a business full of heavy objects and industrial equipment, and your thought process is, yes, I will approach this like a raccoon.
Yes.
Roof entry requires weight distribution, balance, awareness of roofing material strength, or at a minimum, a Google search. Instead, this man's criminal career was interrupted by plywood and sheet metal. And the best part? He didn't even get anything. No copper wiring, no catalytic converters, no scrap metal payday. Just embarrassment and possibly a limp. In a world of elaborate criminal stupidity, this one is refreshingly straightforward. He tried, he fell, he left. Gravity remains undefeated. So, what's worse, getting caught mid-crime or failing so spectacularly that you don't even make it inside the property?
Failing.
Yeah, I think probably so too.
No.
So should basic roof load bearing awareness be included in criminal planning 101?
It should, but I'm also confused about something. Like, if this is a metal recycling place, why is the roof not reinforced with metal?
There's so many freaking roofs out there that are just ready to fall through.
Wow.
That's one thing. And also in a fire that could be caused, but that's definitely one thing that you go through a lot as a fireman is making sure that roof is safe for you to crawl onto, because there's a lot of them out there that are not. So is this the cleanest possible dumb criminal story? No victim loss, no loot, just a bruised ego and maybe a tetanus shot?
Yeah, I can't believe he didn't break bones, but yeah.
Maybe he did. We'll never know.
Oh, that's true.
I doubt that he's going to write anybody and say, hey, this was me and I broke my back.
Yeah. Hey, if you're ballsy enough, we'd like to hear about it.
Yes, we definitely would. All right, you ready for our weird shit section?
Yes.
Weird shit.
Weird shit number 1. The Rougarou, Louisiana's swamp werewolf. The Rougarou is a Cajun or Creole werewolf type cryptid rooted in South Louisiana folklore, especially around the swamps and bayous of, I can never say that, Acadiana. I can't ever say that freaking word. Acadiana. Some shit like that. It's Acadiana. The name derives from the French loup-garou, whatever, literally werewolf. Over centuries, French and Acadian settlers brought the legend to North America, where it evolved into a uniquely Louisiana swamp monster.
Acadian?
Acadian. Maybe that, yeah, Acadian. where it evolved into a uniquely Louisiana swamp monster, traditionally used as a cautionary tale to scare children into obedience and Catholics into observing Lent. The Rougarou remains one of Louisiana's most enduring and commercially embraced folk creatures. The word Rougarou, don't know if I'm saying that right, and it's French, Cajun, Creole, so probably I'm not.
Yeah.
Is a linguistic mutation of the French term loup-garou, as French settlers and Acadians, whatever the hell it is, migrated first to Nova Scotia and then eventually down into Louisiana. The legend followed them, shedding some old world wolf mythology and absorbing swamp mud along the way. In Louisiana, wolves are not exactly roaming the bayous, so the creature adapted. Instead of prowling alpine forests, the Rougarou stalk sugarcane fields, cypress swamps, and fog-heavy bayous. It is typically described as a human body with a head of a dog or a wolf, a classic werewolf silhouette, but coated in Louisiana humidity. Descriptions vary by parish, but common elements include glowing red or yellow eyes in the swamp at night, a hunched muscular frame, clawed hands and canine jaws, a tendency to lurk near waterways. Unlike European werewolves that transform under moonlight, the Rougarou often carries a distinctly Cajun Catholic twist. One popular version says a person becomes a Rougarou if they fail to observe Lent for 7 consecutive years. That's right. This monster doubles as a spiritual compliance officer. Another widespread version features the infamous 101-day curse. A witch, voodoo practitioner, or offended party curses someone to live as a Rougarou for 101 days. The only way to break the curse? Draw blood from another human and pass it on. In some variants, the curse is inherited. In others, it's triggered by breaking serious moral rules or family taboos. Functionally, the Rougarou was a parenting tool. Don't wander into the swamp at night. Don't disobey your elders. Observe your religious duties, because if you don't, something with claws and teeth lives in the bayou. Louisiana's geography shaped the monster. Dense wetlands are disorienting. Sound travels strangely over water. Wildlife noises echo unpredictably. Mist rises off dark water at dusk. It doesn't take much imagination to turn environmental anxiety into supernatural predator. Unlike European wolf lore tied to real wolf populations, the Rougarou feels amphibious, part man, part beast, part swamp spirit. It's less full moon hunter and more shadow between cypress knees. Modern sightings pop up occasionally, usually treated as folklore, misidentification, or prank territory, but the creature has achieved a cultural immortality. In Houma, Louisiana, the Rougarou Fest is held near Halloween, using the monster as a mascot for wetland conservation. The werewolf that once scared kids away from the swamp now advocates saving it. That's branding evolution. So, my take? I love how the Rougarou is basically Catholic guilt with fur. You didn't observe Lent? Boom, you're a swamp wolf. That is efficient theology. Also, let's talk about geography. If you've ever been in a Louisiana swamp at night, you don't freaking need a monster because the swamp does the work for you. Alligators, mosquitoes the size of raccoons, fog, things splashing that you didn't see, something breathing behind you. Add a story about a wolfman and suddenly every raccoon is a cryptid. And the 101-day curse rule? That's suspiciously specific. Not 101, not until you learn your lesson, exactly 101 days, which means somewhere folklore decided bureaucracy was necessary. Sir, you've got 73 days left on your werewolf sentence. But Here's what makes the Rougarou interesting compared to other cryptids. It's not
Get off on good behavior.
It's not just a monster, it's a moral enforcer. European werewolves were tragic. Hollywood werewolves are cursed anti-heroes. The Rougarou is your grandmother's warning system. It lives where children shouldn't wander. It punishes rule breaking. It thrives in the environmental unknown. And it now sells festival tickets. From cautionary tale to conservation mascot, that's a reputation arc most cryptids just never get. So, if the Rougarou enforces Lent, what happens if you cheat on Mardi Gras instead? Immediate swamp probation?
I don't. You cheat on Mardi Gras?
So, is every unexplained swamp noise automatically upgraded to cryptid after midnight?
I would think so. I don't think it's limited to the swamp.
That's a creepy freaking place, man. It is a creepy freaking place. So what other religious rules would be dramatically improved by adding werewolf consequence clause?
Well, where do I start? All of them.
Pretty much all of them.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so you ready for weird shit number 2?
Yes.
Hotel Monte Vista, the meat hanger, the bellboy, and the baby in the basement. Built in 1927 in downtown Flagstaff, Arizona, the Hotel Monte Vista began as the community hotel, funded by local citizens and even backed by novelist Zane Grey. Over the decades, Prohibition-era rumors, underground tunnels, gambling, and general Old West vice gave it a colorful reputation. Today, it's widely marketed, locally embraced as one of Arizona's most haunted hotels, with recurring reports tied to specific rooms and spirits. Room 220's meat hanger, a phantom bellboy who knocks and disappears, and the infamous crying baby in the basement. The Hotel Monte Vista opened New Year's Day, 1927, the product of civic ambition. Flagstaff residents raised roughly $200,000 to build a modern hotel that would put the town on the map. Originally named the Community Hotel, it soon became the Monte Vista, a name chosen by a 12-year-old in a contest. The wholesome origin story didn't last long. Through Prohibition and into mid-century, the Monte Vista reportedly hosted speakeasies, gambling operations, and activity that ghost tour brochures delicately label vice. Like many Western hotels of the era, it accumulated layers of rumor, scandal, and late-night stories, exactly the kind of narrative compost that fertile hauntings grow in. And over time, the Monte Vista developed a reputation, not just as historic, but as haunted. So let's break this into 3 flagship haunts. Number 1, Room 220, the meat hanger. Room 220 is arguably the hotel's most infamous. According to multiple accounts, a long-term male guest once lived in that room and had a deeply unsettling habit, hanging raw meat from the chandelier.
No.
He was later found dead there after several days. Years later, a maintenance worker reportedly locked the room to complete repairs. When he returned, despite the door still being locked, the TV was blasting at full volume and the bed linens had been ripped off and thrown around. Modern guests in 220 report the television turning on or changing channels by itself, cold spots, the sensation of cold hands grabbing or touching them in their sleep. Some describe the touch as heavy and clammy, like raw meat. Now, whether that description is suggestion or something stranger, once you know the meat story, you're not unfeeling it at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Number 2, the phantom bellboy. If you stay on the second floor, you may hear a knock, a polite voice. Room service. You open the door. No one's there. This is one of the hotel's most consistently reported phenomena. Guests and staff describe seeing a young man in an old-fashioned bellhop uniform, often described as wearing a red coat with brass buttons, walking the hallways. Housekeepers claim to see him moving about his duties. He knocks, he announces himself, and he vanishes. There's something almost charming about this one. Not violent, it's not threatening, just eternally committed to hospitality. It's the afterlife equivalent of a strong work ethic. Number 3, the baby in the basement. Then there's the basement. Maintenance and laundry staff over the years have reported hearing the unmistakable cry of an infant echoing through the lower levels. The sound is described as vivid, real, urgent. So real, in fact, that workers have reportedly abandoned tasks and rushed upstairs convinced a child was in distress, but no child is ever found. Local lore attempts to explain this with a darker rumor. A sex worker allegedly became pregnant and was forced to kill her newborn in the tunnels beneath the hotel.
My goodness.
Important note, the backstory circulates as rumor, not documented fact, and that's the key. In many haunted locations, the ghost story expands to fill narrative gaps. When unexplained sound meets old building meets tragic imagination, a legend grows roots. But documented or not, the crying baby story is one that unsettles the staff the most. Additional spirits include a dancing couple seen waltzing in the cocktail lounge during early morning hours before fading away, reports of 2 sex workers allegedly thrown from an upper floor whose spirits now harass male guests, general activity, disembodied voices, lights switching on and off, cold drafts, and objects moving on their own. The Monte Vista does not shy away from its reputation. It totally leans into it. Ghost tours reference it. The hotel's own website recounts the stories. It has become part of its brand. And that's an interesting layer in itself. My take? I love an old Western hotel haunting. There's something about prohibition tunnels and creaky hallways that feels like it should be haunted. Room 220? Well, that's nightmare fuel marketing. You hang raw meat from a chandelier in life, and now your legacy is grabbing strangers with cold spectral hands? Also, let's be honest, old wiring plus ancient TVs equals mysterious channel changes. But the bellboy? That one's almost sweet. If you're going to have a ghost, at least let him be polite and service-oriented. Room service? That's a hell of a lot better than chains rattling.
Yeah, I want that one.
The basement baby story is where it gets heavy. Crying infant sounds in a dark basement that taps into something primal. Humans are wired to respond to that. But here's the important line that we have to walk. Rumor versus record. Old buildings creak, pipes echo, wind moves through vents, sound travels in weird ways in historic structures. Add nearly 100 years of stories layered on top of each other, and every unexplained voice gets promoted to paranormal. And yet, if you're alone in a 1927 hotel basement and you hear a baby crying where no baby should be, you are not calmly conducting acoustic analysis. You are leaving immediately. So, if you had to pick one Monte Vista ghost to encounter, I think we've already addressed this. Are you choosing the meat hanger, the bellboy, or the basement baby?
Bellboy.
100%. Yes. So at what point does historic charm cross over into, we should really upgrade the wiring?
Baby's crying in the basement.
Yeah, I think so too.
Ugh.
So are haunted hotels genuinely haunted, or are they just the perfect storm combinations for architecture, history, and suggestion?
I struggle with that because I think it's both.
I agree 100%. Like the Stanley, I think there's something there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like the place has a weird vibe anyway. I don't think it's because I'm not really that suggestible that it's just like, that's the story. And so
yeah,
but when I'm at the Stanley, I feel something there. Like,
Yeah, I think it's both.
and so many ghost hunters and shit have like picked up stuff at Stanley. I don't know, man. It's
a hot spot.
It's a freaking, they say it's like a portal or some shit.
Yeah.
Like the granite under it or something. I don't know.
Limestone or something, yeah.
Something, yep. All right, so you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Lady Wonder, the psychic horse who allegedly solved crimes. Lady Wonder was a real Virginia horse who rose to national fame from the 1920s through the 1950s as a supposed mind-reading or psychic animal. Owned by Claudia and C.D. Fonda near Richmond, she, quote, answered questions by pushing lettered blocks with her nose to spell out responses, while Duke-affiliated parapsychology researchers tested her abilities. Skeptics pointed to cueing and the clever Hans effect. One enduring legend claims Lady helped police locate a missing boy's body, but the story lacks solid documentation and appears to be folklore layered onto an already famous animal act. Before TikTok psychics, before late-night TV mediums, before crystal subscription boxes, there was a horse in Virginia. Lady Wonder was a mare owned by Claudia and C.D. Fonda near Richmond. Beginning in the 1920s, she became famous for allegedly possessing psychic abilities. Her trick, or talent, depending on who you ask, was mechanical and theatrical. The Fondas constructed a large device, rows of lettered blocks connected to pads. Lady would push the pads with her nose, causing letters to light up or move. In this way, she would spell answers. Visitors paid to ask her questions. Not just fun questions, serious ones. Will my daughter have a boy or a girl? Who will win the election? Which horse should I bet on? What stock should I buy? Newspapers of the time didn't necessarily frame her as a sideshow gimmick. She was often treated as a legitimate curiosity. Some articles leaned into the psychic angle. Others approached her like an unexplained phenomenon. And then came the academics. Researchers connected to Duke University's parapsychology circle, the same community studying ESP, telepathy, and Zener cards, visited Lady Wonder. They attempted informal tests. In some accounts, they wrote down Lady couldn't see and asked her to spell them. They wrote down words Lady couldn't see and asked her to spell them. She reportedly spelled relatively complex terms like Mesopotamia. That word in particular became part of her legend, but even sympathetic observers noted serious problems. Was the questioner unconsciously cueing her? Were subtle shifts in posture signaling correct letters? Was there adequate blinding? Were results replicatable? This is where the clever Hans effect enters the room. Clever Hans was a horse in early 1900s Germany that appeared able to perform arithmetic, but was later shown to be responding to subtle body cues from humans. The Lady Wonder setup is almost textbook for cue-based performance. Now, here's where the story gets darker. The missing boy legend. In paranormal retellings, the story goes like this. In 1952, police were searching for a missing boy. The investigation stalled. Desperate, officers consulted Lady Wonder. They asked her where the boy was. She allegedly spelled Pittsfield Waterwheel. There was no such location. But nearby was something called Field and Wild Water Pit. Police supposedly searched that location and found the boy's body. It's a perfect legend structure. Unusual psychic clue, odd misspelling, tragic discovery, validation. Here's the issue. In skeptical reviews of the story, the specific missing boy is often unnamed. There's no contemporaneous police report tying Lady Wonder to the investigation that has been widely produced. The Pittsfield field and wild connection appears suspiciously like retrofitting, a creative narrative bridge built after the fact. And that matters because Lady Wonder absolutely existed. She absolutely had a letter device. She absolutely drew crowds and researchers. But the leap from spells words to solves homicides is where folklore takes over. This is how legends evolve. Step 1, real attraction. Step 2, academic curiosity. Step 3, national press coverage. Step 4, attach a crime story to raise the stakes. Suddenly, the psychic horse isn't just predicting pregnancies, she's solving murders. And once a legend hits that level, it rarely retracts. My take? I love this story because it sits right on the fault line between spectacle and belief. You've got a real horse, a real mechanical device, real newspaper coverage, real Duke adjacent researchers. That's enough legitimacy to make people lean forward, but here's the thing. If you design a device where a horse responds to a human asking questions and that human knows the answer, you have built a Q machine. It doesn't require fraud. It doesn't require telepathy. It requires human microsignals. And humans are very, very good at leaking signals. Now, the missing boy story, it's cinematic, but when a crime antidote can't produce names, dates, police paperwork, or clean documentation, I file it under narrative gravity. People want the psychic horse to matter. They want her to be more than a parlor trick. So a tragedy gets attached. And that's the pattern you see again and again in paranormal lore. Real person, real object, real setting. Legend escalates, the crime hook makes it immortal. But as researchers, we got to separate documented history from the myth layer. Lady Wonder was fascinating without solving murders. The myths just made her unforgettable. So if Lady Wonder could really predict the future, why wasn't she betting her own hay money on race outcomes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She was just a little dyslexic with the area. I mean,
I don't even think that's dyslexic. I don't know what you call that. I mean, I love the story. I think it's freaking cool, but I gotta tell you, man, I've been around horses my entire life. And I think I said this the last time we recorded, like, they're every bit as good as dogs at perceiving, like, they can pick up cues from people. Like, I mean, it's freaking amazing. I've had horses in my life that I've had them go both ways. If you're like an untrained rider, I've had horses that can recognize that and they will not break out of like a trot because they know that you aren't experienced enough to handle it. Yeah. And then there's others that are like, oh, you can't ride. Your ass is going in the dirt.
My beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just read people. And it's just, it is definitely micro clues because it's not like you take somebody out there and they're bawling and scared and terrified and like they don't do anything, but the horse knows that you are not an experienced rider and reacts one way or the other. They're an asshole and they freaking try to throw you off, or they're like really sweet and refuse to do anything that could possibly hurt you. It's just,
sign me up for the sweet one, please.
That one we called Ebenezer. So
I like it.
How many paranormal legends start as clever performance animals that humans misunderstood?
I would say a lot.
I think a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the couple of animals that I have tremendous respect for are horses and dogs. And it's amazing what they can do. They are freaking both amazing animals.
Yep.
So is the missing boy story a genuine lost record or a narrative upgrade added to keep the legend alive?
I'm going to go with keeping the legend alive, but you never know. You don't go dig into them though, so how would we know?
I don't dig into them, but everything I read said there's absolutely nothing to support that actually happened. I think that it probably is like urban legend.
Yeah.
Like it grows. And so then it wasn't just,
Have to keep adding
she
things.
can predict
Yeah.
the future, but now she, discovered a missing child. And then, so, all right. You ready for the next weird shit story?
Yes.
Lincoln Hall, the man who spent a night dead on Everest. In May of 2006, Australian climber Lincoln Hall summited Mount Everest via the North Route. During his descent, he developed severe high-altitude cerebral edema around 8,600 meters, deep inside the death zone. After collapsing and becoming unresponsive, his exhausted team was ordered to leave him, believing survival was impossible. He was declared dead, and his family was notified. The next morning, another expedition found him sitting upright in the snow, bareheaded, frostbitten, but very much alive. His rescue became one of Everest's most documented survival stories. May 25, 2006, Lincoln Hall, 50 years old, experienced mountaineer, stood on the summit of Mount Everest via the North Col route on the Tibetan side. The summit is triumph. The descent is survival. At around 8,600 meters, or approximately 28,200 feet, Hall began becoming disoriented. He developed severe high-altitude cerebral edema, a condition where brain swelling caused by extreme altitude leads to confusion, impaired motor control, hallucinations, and eventual coma. At that altitude, you are already on borrowed physiology. Above 8,000 meters is known as the death zone. Oxygen levels are roughly 1/3 that of at sea level. Your body is shutting down minute by minute. Hall became disoriented. He reportedly began removing parts of his clothing and gear, a common symptom of hypoxia and advanced altitude sickness. He collapsed. Sherpas with his expedition spent hours trying to help him descend, but their own oxygen supplies were dwindling. They were themselves in mortal danger. Eventually, radio orders came down from expedition leadership. Descend, leave him. It was not cruelty, it was arithmetic. In the death zone, you cannot save someone who cannot move without risking everyone. Hall was left at roughly 8,600 meters as night fell. News reached base camp that he had died. Word traveled quickly. His family in Australia was informed. Obituaries were drafted. Then morning came. On May 26th, climber Dan Mazur,
And they work fast.
yeah, they do, and his expedition were ascending toward the summit on the same route at roughly the same altitude where Hall had been abandoned. They saw something impossible. A man sitting cross-legged in the snow, bareheaded, no gloves, wearing only light upper layers. Alive. When they approached him, Hall reportedly greeted them with something along the lines of, "I imagine you're surprised to see me here, mate."
Yes, I am.
Understatement of the year at 28,000 feet. He was frostbitten, disoriented, but conscious. Mazur's team made a decision that remains one of the more celebrated acts of Everest ethics. They abandoned their summit attempt. They stayed with Hall. They gave him oxygen. They coordinated rescue. Sherpas from Hall's expedition climbed back up with fresh oxygen and assisted in guiding him down. The descent was slow and grueling in thin air where every step is labor. Hall ultimately survived, but not unscathed. He suffered severe frostbite. Most fingertips were amputated. At least one toe was lost. He also experienced lasting neurological effects from the cerebral edema. Later, Hall wrote a book titled Dead Lucky, reflecting on the experience.
Oh, jeez.
He described focusing on rhythmic breathing and mental discipline, techniques honed over years of Himalayan expeditions. Rather than framing it as a single miracle moment, he described it as a series of small decisions not to give up. Medical commentary around his survival is blunt. Surviving overnight at that altitude with minimal clothing, with severe cerebral edema, is extraordinarily rare. The decision to leave him had not been reckless. It had been based on every statistical expectation. And yet, here he was the next morning, cross-legged, alive. My take? This one just hits differently.
Yeah.
There's no cryptid, there's no ghosts, there's no folklore inflation, just a human body that absolutely should not have made it. The death zone does not negotiate. At 28,000 feet, your body is dying in slow motion.
Yeah.
People don't spend the night up there without shelter and then walk away. The surreal image is what sticks with me. Cross-legged in the snow, no gloves, greeting rescuers like he's at a bus stop.
Right.
And imagine the emotional whiplash. Your family is told that you're dead. Obituaries are written. Then someone says, actually,
Psych.
he's alive.
Yeah.
That's myth-level storytelling, except it's documented mountaineering history. But here's the part that I respect the most. Majer's team turned around. They gave up their summit on Everest.
Yeah.
That's enormous. That's like years of planning.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much you know about climbing Everest, but like I looked into it because
there's a lot of bodies
I
up there.
really, 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 really wanted to do it. And it's like months. You are dedicated for months. First of all, you got to get there, but then you're at base camp and you're just waiting. You got to wait for your window. And that could take days. That could take weeks. That could take months. I mean, you're there forever by the time you get into base camp and wait for your window and try to summit. And a lot of teams never get the opportunity. So just being like, okay, we're giving it up. We're going to help this guy. I mean,
No doubt.
it's the right thing to do for sure, but it's enormous.
Yeah.
Summits are money, sponsorship, legacy. They walked away to save a man who statistically should have already been dead. And Hall himself didn't frame it as magic. He framed it as breath. One breath, and then another, and then another. Survival, not as a miracle, but as stubbornness. That's not paranormal. That's human extremity. And sometimes that's the weirdest thing of all. So is Lincoln Hall's survival more about physiology, mindset, or sheer statistical anomaly?
Oh. I want to cheap out and say both again, but I'm going to give him credit and say the first one.
Mindset, physiology.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 100% mindset. Like, I cannot explain it, and I'm not good at it, and I couldn't do what he did. I know that. I'm not good at the whole meditation thing, but
I can't do it.
I believe in it. Like, I do believe that somebody can be in a situation like that and slow their heartbeat and their breathing rate and all of that down enough to survive
something
that nobody else could possibly survive. But it's miraculous.
It's not me.
And like cerebral edema, I mean, that's like death. Like, you're screwed. It's over. That's no freaking joke. And the craziest part about it is when you're at that altitude, it does not get better. It just gets worse and worse and worse until you die, because the problem is you're at that altitude. There's not enough oxygen there to sustain life. So they all carry supplemental oxygen. They're on supplemental oxygen while they're going up there. I mean, some people summit without, but very few. Almost everybody takes oxygen. The fact that he had none and still survived is nuts. Like, if he'd had like oxygen and he's made it through the night, that'd be amazing in its own right. But not having the oxygen and not having the clothing.
Yes.
Because freaking Everest.
The shelter.
I mean, we're talking cold.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
immeasurable cold.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to say.
Would you turn around from the Everest summit to save someone, knowing that you might never get another chance?
Yeah.
I would, unquestionably. I don't even have to think about it. I know exactly what I would do. I feel very comfortable that I would make that decision.
Yeah.
But it's still a really freaking awesome decision that they made. I ain't taking nothing away from
No
did
doubt.
the right thing. But
yeah. That's hard to come by anymore.
Yeah, it is. So are the most unbelievable survival stories sometimes more unsettling than ghost stories?
Yes.
Or
sometimes truth is
more inspiring?
Both.
Because this is a pretty freaking cool, inspiring story.
I would be dead. I died 3 times listening to you tell the story.
No, it was a rough one. Okay, you ready for weird shit number 5?
Sure thing.
Triboulet, the jester who chose to die of old age. And again, this is a French word, so probably not saying it right. But Triboulet was a real French court jester in the early 1500s, associated most famously with King Francis I and possibly earlier with Louis XII. He was described as physically deformed, sharp-tongued, and audacious, exactly the kind of licensed fool who could mock nobility without immediately losing his head. The most famous story attached to his name claims that he slapped the king, insulted the queen, was sentenced to death, and then cleverly chose to die of old age, earning a pardon. While Triboulet was real, the famous execution reprieve story almost certainly belongs more to folklore than verified court record. Triboulet occupies that fascinating historical niche, a real person who slowly became a symbol. He served at the French royal court in the early 16th century, most closely associated with King Francis I, who reigned from who lived from 1517 to 1547, and possibly earlier under Louis XII. Contemporary and near contemporary accounts describe him as a physically disabled being of short stature, misshapen legs, disproportionately long arms, and furiously intelligent. Court jesters in Renaissance Europe were not simply entertainers. They occupied a peculiar legal and social role. They were licensed transgressors. The fool could mock power in ways that others could not. He could voice uncomfortable truths, insult nobility under the shield of comedy, and, within limits, survive it. Triboulet developed a reputation for sharp wit and sometimes biting cruelty in his humor. His name eventually became almost shorthand in French literature for the fool, and he later appeared in works like Victor Hugo's Les Rougarous, or some shit like that, which in turn inspired Verdi's opera Rigoletto, or some shit like that. By then, he was less a documented individual and more of an archetype. Now, for the story everyone remembers, the slap. According to the popular legend, Triboulet, in a moment of outrageous humor, slaps King Francis I on the backside. The king orders him to apologize. Triboulet escalates. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," he supposedly says. "I did not recognize you. I mistook you for the queen." At that point, royal patience expires. Francis condemns him to death. But in a gesture of theatrical magnanimity, he allows Triboulet to choose how he would die. And here comes the punchline that cements the legend. "Good sire, I choose to die of old age." The king laughs. Triboulet is spared and instead banished. It's perfect storytelling, setup, escalation, death sentence, clever loophole, merciful monarch. It's also almost too perfect. Historians generally agree on 2 things. Triboulet was real and bold. The die of old age exchange likely belongs in folklore rather than documented court proceedings. Similar choose your death, I choose old age jokes appear in lore of other European jesters that suggest we're looking at a traveling comic motif, one that eventually attached itself to the most famous French fool. And that makes sense. When history meets oral tradition, stories sharpen, details simplify, dialogue becomes crisp and quotable. No one remembers messy court transcripts. Everyone remembers the punchline. My take? I love this one because it captures something timeless about power and humor. The jester exits in a narrow corridor between truth and execution. Push too far, you die. Stay too safe, you're irrelevant. Triboulet historically seems to have walked that line aggressively. Now, did he actually slap the king? Maybe. Did he deliver that perfect die of old age line exactly as quoted? I'd bet against it. But the story persists because it expresses something bigger than fact. It's the fantasy that wit can outmaneuver authority. It's the hope that cleverness can neutralize violence. It's the idea that humor is stronger than the axe. And that's why these stories travel across centuries and attach themselves to different fools. It survives because it feels true, even if it isn't literally documented. And honestly, if you're going to become folklore, that's not a bad way to do it. So, would modern political satire survive if court jesters still faced literal execution?
No.
I don't think so either.
Not at all.
So, if you had to choose your own execution method and loopholes were allowed, what's your move?
I like the old age.
That's a hard one to beat.
Yeah.
It really is. So, why do licensed fool outsmarts king stories appear in so many cultures? And is it wish fulfillment?
I'm going to say yes.
I think so too. I mean, in monarchies, and obviously I've never lived in one, so not speaking from experience, but I have to imagine in monarchies, like, you're not allowed to do this shit because you literally could have been executed for insulting the king, which is absurd in its own right. But
and both of them in the same breath?
Yeah. And so I think that it's just human nature to be like, this is the one thing I can't do. So I love stories that somebody is able to do it and survive. And so, yeah, I don't know, but that was a fun story.
Yeah.
But that's all I have. That's all I put together for us tonight. So do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we got to remind you about our Dark Dialogue Collective and the Adoptive Victim Program. You can find all the information about those and, support the research, look at the records, all of the fun stuff is at darkdialogue.com, where you can also read and share victim stories. To support the show, you can find us on patreon.com/Dark Dialogue Pod, coffee.com, that's ko-fi.com/Dark Dialogue. Dark Dialogue. Find us on Substack at darkdialoguecrime.substack.com. And for kudos, critiques, weird shit, strange shit, dipshits, all the shits, and anything else you want to talk about, you can reach us at info@darkdialogue.com. Find us on our social media pages, Facebook and TikTok, and I don't know, all of them things. And be sure to like and follow the show, leave reviews, hit the bell, do all of those things, and do it now. Do it now. And that's all I got.
All the cool kids are doing.
All the cool kids are doing.
All of them.
So, all right, well, if that's all you got.
Other than stay safe, everybody.
Have a great night.